There has been an absolutely shocking and disturbing rise in the number of deaths, kidnappings, robberies, etc. in the city of Medellin, Colombia for all tourists, primarily American, but Canadian, whatever, doesn't matter. And it's gotten so bad to the point that the U.S. Embassy, they actually recently just put out a formal warning. I'll put it on the screen right now as I read part of it, but it says, the U.S. Embassy is aware of 8 suspicious deaths of private U.S. citizens in Medellin between November 1st and December 31st, 2023. So that's 8 deaths of U.S. citizens. Doesn't even count like the I know a Swedish guy went missing, a German, a Canadian. So it's a lot more than just 8 if you count all the tourists, not just Americans. It says involving involuntary drugging overdoses. And then it says several, basically all of them, involve the use of online dating applications. So we're going to talk a lot about this, how to stay safe when you're using Tinder and stuff like that. And then it goes on to say, 200% rise in violent crime on the 3rd trimester of 2023. Criminals use dating apps to lure victims to meet in public places, blah, 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 and later assault and rob them, okay? So what you don't hear about, which is even more scary, is all the cases of the guys that were drugged and robbed, but they survived. So probably 80 to 90%, maybe even higher, maybe closer to 95% of people survive their kidnapping, drugging, and robbing experience. So if just, 8 American tourists died, think about how many survived and were just robbed. So if there's like 8 deaths from overdose of people that accidentally killed their victims and went too far, there's probably close to 10x that of people who were just robbed and stuff like that. Now, I'll make this explanation quick for guys who don't know. They use a drug called scopolamine. I'll just give the quick 30-second version. Basically, with scopolamine, it's some powder. It comes from the burundanga plant. It's homebrewed in Colombia. And when they give you a high dose of this drug, you lose all of your free will. So if somebody puts scopolamine in your drink, you ingest it, and they say, hey, it'd be a great idea if you take off all your clothes and you dance like a funky chicken in the streets. And you'll go, yeah, that is a good idea. Do you want me to do that? They'll be like, yeah, you'll go do it. But they don't tell you to dance like a funky chicken. What they say is send me all your crypto or something like that. As a matter of fact, I know through a friend of a friend, a guy who got drugged on this drug scopolamine. These 2 prostitutes put it in his drink. And by the way, it's not just prostitutes who drug guys. And don't victim blame. I don't want to hear anyone in my fucking channel victim blaming these people, right? He was naive. He got drugged. And then they said, hey, great idea. Send us all of your crypto. And he did it. He got scammed for $200K in crypto. Now, I'm an expert on the city of Medellin. I lived there for 7 years. I no longer live there. If you watch my other videos, we can go into more of that why. Maybe I'll talk about some of that here and later in this video. But I was there for 7 years, and I threw some of the best parties that country has ever fucking seen. Nothing ever severely bad. I got pickpocketed once or twice maybe, but no druggings, no severe robberies, no home invasions. So if I can avoid it, being one of the most high-profile people in Medellin, throwing all these amazing parties, interacting with a shitload of women, I'm clearly qualified to give you advice. Okay, so let's get into it, right? The first thing I want to say is this: 99%, basically all of the stories that I've heard of guys who get drugged and robbed in Medellin, the story always starts the same, right? They say, oh man, I was an idiot. All the signs were there. She kept mentioning drinking. She was really pushy. She wanted to go to my house. She kept pouring shot after shot. I went to the bathroom and, my drink was still there and I came out and I knew I probably shouldn't have, drank it because I left the drink out of my sight, but I just did it anyway. I didn't want to make it awkward. And oh, what do you know? I got drugged. Or I don't know. It's some version of that. So it sounds well and good to follow these rules, but in the moment, these girls are master manipulators. They also work with male criminal gangs that coach them really well on how to do this stuff. So, don't think you're arrogant and it can't happen to you. So let's go over some tips. So the first thing is try to avoid using dating apps if at all possible, and instead opt to meet girls on Instagram. Now, I'm aware that 99% of you have no idea how to do that. That's why I made a free Instagram masterclass. The link is in the description of this video. The reason why it's better to meet girls on Instagram is because you're going to them, right? So criminals, it's like inbound versus outbound marketing, right? If you're going to them, if you're DMing the girl on Instagram, you message one of these girls, she's not just going to decide out of the blue, yeah, well, I was a nursing student, but now I'm just going to drug this guy because he DM'd me. Versus the criminals, they don't wait for you to come to them. They're outbound. They go on Tinder, Bumble, even Colombian Cupid. People think, oh, use Colombian Cupid. No, the criminals are on Colombian Cupid as well. It's another dating app, right? So meet girls on Instagram. Again, that's outside of most of your guys' reality. You don't know how to find hot, beautiful women on Instagram and how to curate a proper profile. That's what my whole channel's about. You can go back and watch my older videos, but most of you, let's be honest, you're going to use Bumble and Tinder. So here's what you do, right? The first thing you do when you get them on Bumble, Tinder, is get them off the app as quickly as possible and get their Instagram. They don't have an Instagram. Ay, amor, no tengo redes sociales. Like she says, I don't have social media. Blocked, done, forget about her, right? Just ignore and don't even talk to her again, okay? Because that's very, very weird. 99.9% of girls have some social media, even if it's small and private. Now, you're you're on Tinder, you're on Bumble, you match with a girl, you get her on Instagram. What happens next? Investigate her social media like a bloodhound. Go like full Sherlock Holmes and like the Monopoly man, where the monocle, whatever it's called, and look at it. Does she have graduation photos that shows where she went to school? Does she have photos that reveal where she works? Is she a dental assistant? She's wearing her scrubs and the location of the dental office is tagged, right? Or is her family in her photos? Is her family tagged in the photos? You see these things and you're probably good to go. There's other things you want to avoid. We'll talk about that. We'll get to that in a second. Versus the contrary, right? No social media, red flag. Brand new social media, red flag. Even if it's 5-6 months old and there's some photos, going back. No family, no friends, no location, no personal information revealed in it. That's pretty suspicious, right? So beware of that. Also be very aware of any girl that seems too eager to drink or come straight over. So paisas, aka people from Medellin. If you're from Antioquia or Medellin, you're paisa, right? So paisas, especially the women, well, the men drink, but the women don't drink that much, right? Young, beautiful paisa girls, they don't really drink that much. So if they're mentioning drinking a lot, coming straight over, being too easy, if you feel like there's a lack of chemistry, maybe your Spanish is shit and you're not saying a whole bunch, you're just saying basic things on Google Translate, and she's just over the top, super excited to meet you, blah, 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 and she's mentioning drinking, could be suspicious. Third thing, and this is the most important, so listen up. If you take nothing else from this video, take this from the video, okay? Do not leave your drink out of your sight, not even for a microsecond. If you do, you just have to, whatever, you're drinking with her and you just have to go to the bathroom and you drank most of your margarita, but there's a fourth of it left, and you go to the bathroom, you come back, that margarita is now done. If you want to drink more, just order a new one and say, oh, I didn't like the flavor of that one. Right, make up some excuse why you don't want to drink the rest of it, or just don't even drink on the date, right? This whole thing about oh, with the scopolamine, they can put it on their boobs and they tell you to lick their nipples and then you lick the scopolamine off their tits, or they blow it in your face or something like that. I think that's more fiction than fact. I've never heard of a single case of that actually being true. Every case that I know of, American, Canadian, whatever it is, tourists being drugged and robbed, is when they put it in your drink, they somehow get you to drink it. Okay, so just never consume a drink that you weren't watching 24/7, right? And also beware of chemistry. If you're going to drink with a girl, make sure that the chemistry is there. Fourth, never let them lead you anywhere. There was a famous case of some Asian guy. He was a comedian. I forget if he was American or Canadian. And it's a very Asian name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but he was I think he was some fame online. Like I said, he was a comedian. And I believe, I could be wrong, so if I'm mistaken, don't destroy me in the comments, but I could be wrong, but I believe his downfall was that he let these women lead him somewhere, okay? They said, hey, amor, come in this taxi and let's go to XYZ location, right? Don't do that shit on the first, second, or even third date till there's good chemistry, blah, blah, blah. I've never really had a Colombian girl or most women in general really lead me anywhere in a taxi. Usually as the guy, you do the leading. But what I believe happened is, these girls led him somewhere and he got set up and kidnapped, and it was a whole, he died, RIP, poor guy. But an exception to this could be you're in Provenza, which is a nice area of Medellin where all the bars and restaurants are at, and you're at some really nice restaurant. She goes, hey, my friends, I have a connection at this bar or club or restaurant that's right next door, and it's a public area and it's well lit and there's a lot of people going in and out, and she's not being pushy about drinking. She just wants to go there. She's not mentioning drinking. Fine, you can let her lead you next door down the street, but certainly don't go into a taxi and let her lead you. So, all right, so now just a quick recap of all the things that I said. You investigate the fuck out of her social media, make sure it's old, make sure it reveals some personal information, friends tagged in it, etc. And it looks like a real social media. It wasn't created the other day, right? And the more personal information it shows, the better. Number two, check for genuine chemistry. Don't think because you're some gringo, you went down there. Actually, starting as a gringo, we have a bad reputation and we attract the worst type of women there. And if they're being too eager too quickly and not making it a headache, not flaking a lot, not being very difficult, that's probably a red flag, because, hot women make shit difficult. It's not easy, right? If it was easy, every guy would be getting laid, and most guys aren't getting laid. Number two, if she's super eager or mentioning drinking, cut it off. Don't drink on the date, and if you do, watch your drink like crazy. Don't let it out of your sight. Don't let her lead you anywhere. We just talked about that. And a bonus one could be most buildings that you'll stay in Medellin, if it's in a nice area, will have these things called porteros, which are the security guards that guard the front of the building. And what you can do is tell them, hey, every time I bring a girl back here, check her ID and take a photo of it. They might want to do that anyway. That might be a mandatory thing depending on who the porteros are, but you can specifically tell them that, and also tell them hey, if I bring a girl back, I always walk them back down. So if I bring a girl back to my place and she just leaves on her own, then red flag. I'm up there dying, overdosing, don't let her leave. Go back up to the apartment with her, come check on me, etc. So that can be a little bit of somewhat of a fail safe. Hey guys, so during the editing of this video, I realized I left out one important thing. I was talking about scopolamines, druggings, pickpocketing. Pickpocketing is a huge thing, so I'll just say this real quick. The way you don't get pickpocketed is you don't forget where you are. You don't forget that you're in a third world country, Medellin, dangerous area, etc. And you remember that anytime you're in a even remotely, relatively crowded area, you don't forget that you're there, and you put your hands in your pockets and you walk around like this, okay? I don't care if you think you look weird or, oh, that's bad body language to be hunched over and have my hands in my pockets. Just do that or you will get pickpocketed. This means on the metro. This means on Calle Diaz, anywhere near Parque Geras or Provenza. Any of these neighborhoods, Friday, Saturday night, there's a lot of people walking around, and the way they get you is they kind of bump into you and like, I just like, sorry, I bumped into you, and they're experts, they will get your phone. So anytime you're in a remotely crowded area where it wouldn't be weird for someone to accidentally kind of bump into you, you walk around with your hands in your pockets, or you get one of those like sling things where like you keep your valuables right here in front of you, and it's zipped up, etc. So don't get pickpocketed either. Don't get drugged and kidnapped mainly, but don't get pickpocketed either. But my thoughts on Medellin in general these days, it's kind of a shithole anyway. So it's this thing where you see it on TikTok, right? You're aware of this passport bros movement, and you hear about like, oh, Medellin. Everyone just talks about Colombia, Medellin. People seem to forget that there's like other countries and other cities in the world. I think it is kind of like an expat or passport bro rite of passage. You got to pass through Medellin. The networking there can be really good, but like I said, it is really a shithole. And to be honest, the people from Medellin, like the locals, are generally very low quality people. But even worse are the American, Canadian, Australian expats, the foreigners that it attracts, right? Not only you get like the pathetic guys who have to pay for box, and listen, I don't have anything against guys who pay for box once in a while, that's fine. I know young, good-looking guys who pay for the box. Sometimes you want to save time. That's fine, no judgment. But I mean, like, you get guys that couldn't get laid without it. And the YouTubers are the worst, right? The people in the expat groups on Facebook are super toxic, but the YouTubers and the people on social media, they all are like these virtue signaling. They only go there for girls. They only go there because they can't get laid in their home country, and they're looking for feminine, beautiful women that they could actually obtain. They go over there and they like marry like a 5 or a 6, some very like plain girl, a girl that, you shouldn't even have to leave the country for to get. And then all they do, even though the only reason they're there is for girls, is shame all the other men. These guys come here and they don't learn Spanish. They don't absorb the culture. They don't, blah, 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 integrate with the people. They just come here for the girls. Bro, you're doing the same thing. And the whole like integrate with the culture, why would you want to integrate with the culture? Medellin is still plagued by the Medellin cartel de Medellin, Pablo Escobar, Ochoa brothers. Medellin culture is still plagued by those guys and influenced by that today. Meaning, Paisa culture is generally, Medellin culture, Paisa culture, same thing, is basically slow money is stupid, right? Going to school is stupid. Starting a business is stupid. Anything that involves hard work is stupid, and only fast money is good. So only robbing people, being a prostitute, selling your body, selling and moving drugs, just this fast, quick money is smart. Scamming people, robbing, etc. They have this expression called dar papaya, which basically means if somebody does something stupid, it's okay to rob them. If they're not looking out for themselves, then, screw them as a human being because they weren't being careful and, they didn't watch their drink all the time, or they left their cell phone, on the counter and I swiped it and, dar papaya, like it's his fault that I'm a bastard and I robbed him. So I would avoid Medellin. Colombia can be a very beautiful country. Put it this way, Colombians in general, maybe a little bit less Bogota, but most places in Colombia, including Medellin, and I'll say this in the most politically correct way that I can, is they are unburdened by deep thoughts. You can read into that what I'm trying to say. So it can be pretty annoying to deal with the people there in general. But another thing to be aware of, why I encourage going to other cities besides Medellin, is in Medellin in particular, about 80% of the beautiful women there at some point in their lives in some way have been involved in sex work. Maybe they're actual prostitutes, maybe they just are sugar babies, or the second they start going out with a guy, they just start demanding that he start, paying all their bills, or they kind of like, go in and out with it. At some point they're selling their bodies, at some point they're not. And I was actually talking about this on the Fresh and Fit podcast here. I'll play a quick clip of what Myron had to say about it.
What I will say is, from my experience, there's a guy that went there for the first time with y'all. The girls are cool. They're more polite, more nice, not as annoying. But what I will say is that the thing that pissed me off the most about being there was too many hookers, bro.
So as you can see, it's not just me, Myron, Fresh and Fit, guys that speak Spanish, the locals, all my American friends, we all experience it. So I would say if you're going to go to Medellin, cancel that and choose a smaller city like Bucaramanga, maybe Cali, I don't know, or Cali, whatever you want to pronounce it. That might be getting a bit too, played out with gringos and stuff like that. But even a smaller city like Manizales, although I heard the quality isn't great in Manizales, or like Sincelejo, right? None of you guys have heard of Sincelejo because why would you? It's a small town in a random part of the coast in Colombia. Small town girls are better anyway because big city girls have too much exposure to luxury, rich guys, high status guys, etc., and their standards become too high and unrealistic and entitled. I talked about this before, but small town girls are better. Or better yet, just go to another country, go to Brazil, right? I'm actually looking for travel buddies in Brazil. Brazil is kind of like if America and Colombia had a baby and that baby took like the best characteristics of both, right? So you get people that aren't so unburdened by deep thoughts. You get people with a little more going on up there, like you would in like the US, but they're also feminine and Latina and stuff like that. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. More difficult dating market, but more rewarding because the people are just higher quality. And guys, follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be doing a free live event, a coaching call. My forte is traveling the world and coming up with new dating strategies, new ways to meet women. Of all the B-roll and stuff like that, all the girls you've seen me with, I meet 99% of them on Instagram and or dating apps, mostly Instagram, a little bit dating apps. And, I do some cold approach or meet girls at parties, but it's basically virtually almost all from online. And I'm going to talk about photos, how to text girls, automation, online dating, virtual assistants, etc. Everything, my whole recipe. Just give a lot of value. It won't be a sales pitch or anything like that, so don't worry. I only post the link to that on my Instagram. Check my Instagram stories. Check the links in my bio on Instagram. It is RedbeardRants1. So if you want to get, free coaching, whatever, come to that live event, Q&A, be a big Zoom call. And that's it. Hope to see you guys on Instagram. Hope to see you guys on the free coaching call at some point. That's it. Stay safe. Stay safe, my brothers. Peace.